Solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. In order to successfully use the quadratic formula, you have to make sure that your equation is first written in standard form. That looks like this. Standard form means that the equation is equal to 0, that the x squared value is positive, and then it's written in descending order. Once it's written in standard form, you can identify the coefficient of x squared, the coefficient of x, and the constant in the c position. These three numbers are what's going to be substituted into the formula. Once you've erased and replaced all of the variables with the appropriate values, then you can simplify twice. And by that, I mean this symbol here. It's called the plus minus symbol because it's a shortcut for writing a plus sign or a minus sign. So when you're computing, you have to choose only one sign at a time. So you're going to solve the problem twice. The first time you're solving, you're going to put only a plus sign in front of the radical symbol. And then the second time you solve it, you'll put only a minus sign in front of the radical symbol. And that will help you to determine if there are in fact two solutions. Let's get started. Our first example here asks us to solve the quadratic formula algebraically. That means not using a graph. So we can absolutely use the quadratic formula. But first things first, we need to get this equation into standard form. So we need this to be a 0. And the only way to do that is to add 20 to both the left and the right sides of the equation, giving us x squared minus 12x plus 20 equals 0. Now we can identify our a, our b, and our c values. A is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is the constant. So our values are 1, negative 12, and 20. Now the quadratic formula will be given to you on your reference sheet. When you look up the quadratic formula, all you need to do is write down this exact expression, but replace each of the variables with your given numbers. So we're going to put a b here, negative 12, another b here, but over here we need an a and a c. And in the denominator, we need an a. That's it. You just have to erase and replace. The next step is to pick up your calculator. So once you have your calculator open, all you need to do is enter one giant fraction and start typing. Negative, that's what this symbol here means, parentheses, negative 12, close parentheses, and now you can only choose one of these operations. It's either sum, plus, or minus, subtract. I'll start with the plus sign. Now I'm going to press the square root key, and I'm going to type parentheses, negative 12, close the parentheses, and then write the square on the outside. Now this one here is a subtraction sign. Minus 4, parentheses 1, parentheses 20. In the denominator, I'm going to type 2 parentheses 1, or I could simplify it myself and just type 2. Now that I've typed everything correctly, I'm going to press enter. So my first answer is 10. Now I need to do that all over again, but instead of putting a plus sign here in front of the radical, I'm going to use a minus sign. It's a lot of typing, so I'm simply going to use the copy and paste feature by arrowing up until my expression is highlighted and pressing the enter key. Once I do that, I can now edit this expression by arrowing backwards until I'm on top of the plus sign, and when the cursor is blinking, I press subtraction instead. And there's my other answer. So my two solutions are 10 and 2, and I can list them like this, in braces. Now let me show you something that might go wrong. Sometimes when you're typing, I'll copy and paste here, you might use a wrong character. right? And something like that might be right here in the front, where it's supposed to be negative b. You might accidentally type a subtraction sign here. You see how that looks different? Negative, subtraction. Anyways, if I accidentally type a subtraction sign and press enter, I'll get an error message. And syntax means with your typing. So instead of quitting, I'm going to arrow down and click the Go To button. And when I do that, it will flash on my error. So it's telling me this makes no sense. What am I subtracting negative 12 from? And since I didn't give it a value, I know that I probably used the wrong character. Another example might be that you type something wrong in here, like maybe you type a negative sign here instead of a subtraction sign. And then again, you get an error message, but notice this time it doesn't say syntax. So there's nothing wrong with the typing, it's just telling me there's no real answers. And that's because if I drew that, if indeed that was the case, if I drew that parabola, it might be one that has no x-intercepts, in which case there would be no real solutions. But more oftentimes, the reason you get that error message is because you've typed something incorrectly. So if you get non-real answers, check to make sure you didn't put a negative inside the radical, or check that you wrote parentheses. So that is how you use the quadratic formula.